Hello my friends, welcome Coffee and Reactions video channel. I am Mustafa from Turkey and I have new suggestion from Indonesia. You wanted me to watch a historical video my friends. Today we are gonna learn a new things about history, Indonesian history. Today we are gonna watch a video named Kingdom of Majapahit, an Empire of Water, part 1. Extra history. We are gonna watch this video from Extra History YouTube channel. Thank you my friends for sharing this video with us, and we are gonna watch an historical video. Okay, let's start.
A canoe pushes up on the sand, and men step onto the shore. These are the Austronesians, the greatest mariners in history.
Okay.
They and their ancestors, the Polynesians, will make the Pacific their domain, using the stars and wind to settle nearly every speck of land from the Philippines to Hawaii. But this land is special. Racked by volcanic eruptions and at the crux of vital trade winds, it's a place to found an empire. This is the island of Java.
Okay. So we are gonna watch
A couple quick
Java history. Okay, there are lots of suggestions about Java, my friends. There are lots of people from Java. There are lots of friends from Java. Okay, I'm curious about it. Let's continue.
things up top. Please give a warm extra history welcome to Ali, who's doing art for this series. Thanks, Ali.
Thanks, Eddie.
And second, as we finalized this episode, a series of powerful earthquakes struck the Indonesian island of Lombok. We've linked two fundraising efforts in the description. One for international aid organizations, and another for a local effort verified by GoFundMe.
Okay.
Any help you could give would be deeply appreciated. And now, back to the show. At first glance, the Kingdom of Majapahit doesn't seem like one of the great empires of history. Where other Southeast Asian kingdoms endured for centuries, Majapahit's golden age only lasted 100 years, from roughly 1293 to 1389.
Okay.
While other kings left great temples and palaces, Majapahit left only the modest ruins of its capital. Its scribes left few written records. But do you know who hasn't forgotten Majapahit? Indonesia. In fact, Majapahit was so successful, even right after its fall, the Muslim states that conquered and replaced it tried to claim lineage from this Hindu-Buddhist kingdom. And many in modern Indonesia look back on it as the historical example of why their country exists.
Okay.
Because Majapahit did something that no other native government did until the 20th century. It brought the Indonesian archipelago under one rule. And
Okay.
that was no mean feat. Because Indonesia has over 13,000 islands, many with unique cultures and languages. Its largest, Sumatra, is the size of Spain, and the smallest are barely rocks sticking out of the ocean. The distance the archipelago stretches is immense. From northern Sumatra to eastern Papua New Guinea is the same distance as between London and Istanbul.
Ooh.
Yet Majapahit united them, though what form that unity took is still debated. What isn't in dispute, though, is that they changed what would become Indonesia, the world's fourth most populous nation, in ways that are still apparent today. So how did they do it? Well, the keys to Majapahit's success actually lay in two kingdoms that preceded it, the kingdom of Srivijaya and the kingdom of Mataram.
I remember Srivijaya from the other videos, my friends. I remember that you mentioned you gave information from Srivijaya. Srivijaya, okay. I remember.
And both of these kingdoms won power by control of the water.
Okay.
First, we'll visit Srivijaya,
Okay.
a kingdom that was crucial to the development of the region, but a kingdom that was also forgotten until about a century ago. In the early 20th century, academics pieced together stone inscriptions and Chinese written accounts to discover that a thriving maritime kingdom existed in Sumatra from the 7th to the 14th centuries.
Okay.
Srivijayan rulers were lords of water, governing a coastal kingdom that controlled the trade routes through the Strait of Malacca. They launched fleets of merchant vessels that brought products of Indonesia: gold, camphor resin, rice, aromatic sandalwood, and spice from the eastern islands to the markets of China and India. It's because of Srivijaya that the Indonesian archipelago became the famous Spice Islands Europeans whispered about, a land of untold riches and exotic goods. In the days before refrigeration, anything that could preserve meat, or at least make it palatable when it was spoiled, was worth its weight in gold. And these islands held the world's only source of that most rare and mysterious spice, a thing with medicinal, even hallucinogenic properties, A single nut that has caused more spilling of blood than any other spice in history. Nutmeg.
Really?
People would kill for nutmeg. In the later colonial period, the Dutch will torture, murder, and enslave to acquire it.
Wow.
And Srivijaya controlled all access to it. But trade had long been a part of life in the archipelago. 2,500 years before Srivijaya was even founded, sailors were plying the waters around the island, following the trade winds that run south or north depending on the season, taking products to mainland Asia and bringing back influences such as Hinduism and Buddhism. Actually, by the time Srivijaya was kicking around, it wasn't unusual for Indonesian kings to have an Indian Brahmin or two as advisors, or a group of Buddhist monks wandering their kingdom. Rather than running in competition, these religions fused, with Buddha joining the Hindu pantheon to create what's known as Hindu Buddhism. But unlike earlier trading states, Srivijaya had coordinated merchant fleets. They would go north, stay for a season absorbing foreign influences, then return with cargoes of precious objects and travelers on commercial or religious missions. As a result, Srivijaya's coastal settlements became diverse, cosmopolitan places, with communities of Chinese, Malays, indigenous tribes, and others from Southeast Asia. But Srivijaya's real innovation was how it whipped the pirates and sea nomads along its coast into a merchant navy that locked down the sea lanes, controlling the spice trade.
Bravo.
Srivijaya didn't directly rule the spice-producing islands in the east. In fact, it didn't even care who governed the interior of its home island of Sumatra. As far as we can tell, they didn't even produce their own food. They extracted rice tributes from other islands that needed access to the Strait of Malacca. Because spice, and spice trading, was that important. The spice expanded tastiness. The spice was vital for preserving meat.
Yes.
The spice must flow. So, Srivijaya controlled the Spice Islands by becoming Lords of Water. But southeast of Sumatra, on the neighboring island of Java, was the kingdom of Mataram. And they too were Lords of Water.
Oh.
Fresh water. Mataram served as Srivijaya's upland ally. Though whether
I was thinking that they're gonna fight. I was thinking that this is gonna be fight, but always they are having friendship. They are peaceful. This is very surprising for me. Okay, as a growing in Middle East, my friends, we are always having fights. We are always having wars. But this video is always with friendship, with agreements, with peaceful agreements. This is very surprising for me, and I love to see that. It is very different and it is very lovely.
they were full partners or vassals is undetermined, and probably varied. At times, they fought.
Oh, okay.
While the rulers of Mataram controlled the ports on Java, their power center lay in the terraced rice fields on the volcanic slopes. In fact, one of the kingdom's most prominent dynasties literally ruled under the name Lord of the Mountain. Where Srivijaya was dynamic and open to outside influences, Mataram was conservative and traditionalist, changing slowly and deliberately. Its strength lay in agriculture and controlling the irrigation systems that fed its enormous rice terraces. Centuries before, the Javanese had started using wet rice cultivation to boost their agricultural productivity. While the island's sacred volcanoes sometimes made life hazardous, they also gave Java some of the most fertile soil in the Pacific, meaning the kingdom of Mataram could produce huge quantities of rice to support a large population and export via trade. But rice terraces require irrigation, which is how the first Javanese government started. Village leaders would control the irrigation systems, with their power radiating out to wherever the water went. Gradually, these irrigation systems solidified into small kingdoms, which eventually coalesced under the kings of Mataram, lords of the mountain, and managers of rice fields. While Srivijaya controlled the shipping lanes, Mataram had something just as crucial: a large workforce that it used to plant, harvest, and maintain the irrigation networks. And they could mobilize that manpower for other projects, like conquest or temple construction. The first temples on Java appeared in the 7th century on the upland plateaus, with local kingdoms erecting beautiful, if modest, Hindu temples in the Indian style. But the kings of Mataram had something much grander in mind, something that would eclipse these little Hindu structures. For unusually, the most prominent Mataram dynasty was Buddhist. and they wanted to build a monument that would endure forever. It took generations, but they did it.
Oh, yes.
Borobudur
Borobudur.
remains, to this day, the largest
yes.
Buddhist structure on the planet. So big, it looks like a stone mountain. This hulking monument is actually a series of platforms, a mandala in stone, where each level features bas-relief carvings on increasingly sacred topics. Pilgrims would travel upward, walking around the outside of each level while meditating on the 2,600 carved panels, seeing tales of their ordinary world, stories of Buddhist saints, previous incarnations of the Buddha, scenes from Buddha's life, and finally a summit of bell-shaped stupas representing the celestial realm. Srivijaya couldn't build anything like Borobudur, though in fairness, Mataram might not have really been able to do it either, because it may have cost them their kingdom. Soon after its completion, this Buddhist dynasty abandoned their lands, perhaps due to revolts over the burden of temple construction, perhaps due to an eruption of their sacred mountain, perhaps both. But the dynasty set a new bar for what a central Javanese kingdom could do. And while their successor dynasty moved the capital to the east, one of their first actions was to one-up their Buddhist predecessors by building a similarly grand Hindu monument, the Temple of Prambanan.
Yes.
The stage was set. Whatever kingdom could fuse these two elements, the maritime trading empire of Srivijaya with the raw inland power of Mataram, would become the lords of the archipelago, an empire of water. That kingdom was Majapahit.
So, this is the end of the first part, my friends. So, there is second part. I didn't know that. But it was very enjoyable to watch this video. Very simple graphics, very easy to understand everything. So, this is the end of the video, my friends. This is the end of the first part of this video. Kingdom of Majapahit. And we watched the previews of Majapahit, Srivijaya and Mataram. Okay, very impressive, very beautiful history lesson for me. It was generally peaceful and it was very surprising for me. Yeah, there are some little fights, but generally peaceful. It is very different from Middle Eastern history, full of fights, full of wars, full of blood. An Empire of Water, Part 1, Extra History. Thank you, my friends, for sharing this beautiful video with us. Thank you, my friends, for your suggestions. Thank you for letting me know about this beautiful history channel. And thank you for watching it together with me. Have a nice day. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye.